Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. This is a quick little video I wanted to do just to talk about these new power rankings things that we have now with IBM Watson. The Overwatch League just announced them today, and so I figured I'd do a little extra video this week to talk about them, because I think they're pretty cool. And I just wanted to share them with you if you haven't seen them yet. I'll have a link to all of the articles that I am talking about today in the description, but here just is their little thing introducing power rankings with IBM Watson. As they say here, is there a way to objectively determine the best player or team in the Overwatch League at any given time? This is a question fans and analysts have been trying to answer for as long as competitive Overwatch has existed. The game produces an enormous range of stats and numbers for each of its 32 heroes, so analyzing both individual and team performance can be a complex matter. Previous statistical insights introduced by the league, including the player impact rating, which they have a link to that as well. Team fight win rates and more laid the groundwork for understanding the nuances of the game at a professional level. But we're excited to provide fans with even more precise data in the 2021 season by introducing power rankings with IBM Watson. There's a little video on it. You could watch it. It's mostly just Zoe talking about some of the stuff behind the scenes. And as they say here, power rankings with IBM Watson, developed by a team of data scientists at IBM alongside Overwatch League experts, uses AI algorithms to analyze every player and team's performance in every Overwatch League match. Trained on data from previous seasons, Watson's algorithm correlates those statistics and assigns a weight to each, determining how each factor tips the balance toward a win or a loss. The combination of the data capture, correlations, and weighting creates the power rankings for each player and team. And each week, we will provide a comprehensive list of the top performers in the league on the Power Rankings with IBM Watson page of our website, the Overwatch League website. Here are the top ranked players from the 2020 season as determined by Watson's algorithm. We'll take a look at that here in a second. There's a full-size page you can get to. And here's the important thing. Updated Power Rankings will be posted every Monday during the 2021 season, with analysis following on Wednesdays. AI is a learning algorithm. It gets better over time, so stay tuned all season long as Watson introduces even more cool features to enhance our understanding of the Overwatch League. So up here, here's the page. Here is the overall top 10 best performers from last season. Interesting stuff here. Obviously, Fleta down at 10. The MVP was the 10th highest, according to IBM Watson. A lot of Fusion and Shock players. The entire top 10 is just those three teams. 4 from the Dragons. Looks like 3 from the Fusion, 3 from the Shock. We go into the specific roles. You can see the support area. You got Violet, Funny Astro, Alarm, Lee Jae Gon, Moth, Gangnam Jin. FD got Izayaki, Twilight, and Jonak as your top supports, your top damage players. You have Lip, Fleta, Striker, Carpe, Ivy, Once, Rascal, Yaki, Hisu, and BQB. And tanks, which is where there's some really interesting ones here. You have Smurf, Choyobin, Void, Sato, Fearless, Hanbin. You also have Gargoyle, Fury, Ben Best, and Fate. I was not a huge fan of Ben Best last season. I thought he was kind of one of the bigger issues for the team, but statistically had a very, very good year, and you cannot deny that. So that is that. Very good year from Ben Best. I would like to formally apologize because I was not the biggest on Ben Best all of last season. So there you go. So they will only show the top 10, but don't worry. We'll take a look at the full list here in a second. They also have the team power rankings here as well, as you can see. Some interesting ones. The top 3, the Shock, then the Fusion, then the Dragons for the top 3 from last season. Then you have a pretty big gap, 137 for the Shock, 133 for the Fusion, 132 for the Dragons. These two very close together. But then you go to 116 is the score for the Paris Eternal. They were the 4th highest rated team. Then you have the Mayhem, then the Charge, the NYXL, Seoul Dynasty, Atlanta Reign, LA Gladiators, LA Valiant, Dallas Fuel, Hangzhou Spark, and then you have at the end the Toronto Defiant, the Washington Justice, the Chengdu Hunters, the Houston Outlaws, the Vancouver Titans, the London Spitfire at 19, and then the Boston Uprising here at 20. This is very interesting because I thought the London Spitfire were pretty good, all things considered. But they were in Asia, so they were struggling a lot more, and I think that's kind of statistically why they're down here. So stats don't tell you everything, and I think that's one of the reasons why these power rankings are very interesting, because statistically they tell you what things are, but I don't think anybody would sit here and say that the Philadelphia Fusion were the better team than the Shanghai Dragons. The Shanghai Dragons absolutely obliterated the Fusion when they played. The Dragons were the better team consistently throughout the season. They won 2 tournaments. The Fusion won 0 tournaments, and so statistically, Philadelphia may have been better, but they were in a statistically weaker region. I mean, you look at the bottom, half of the league. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it was a smaller region in Asia, but even still, the APAC region, you had Shanghai, you had Guangzhou, you had New York, you had Seoul. 4 of the half of the region was in that top half. So it's interesting to look at and see that. So I'm curious to see kind of what updates we have throughout the season. Look to see what it does as we get more and more into the season. Here is the overall kind of just IBM page. You can access this if you're on this Power Rankings page here. Click on Learn More. It'll take you to the IBM website. And you'll get to this thing. It's also ibm.com/sports/Overwatch if you want to check this out for yourself. They have some information here, some little videos. This is the same one that was on the other page. They also have just some information here about, learn more about IBM Watson. So if you want to check any of that stuff out, you can. But here, they have a full list of the top players, and they list 92 players. I believe that's every player that played last season. So there's a huge list. It may only be players that played a certain amount, but you get some really interesting. So the top is Violet as the #1 ranked player. And then when you go all the way to the bottom, because I'm sure people are curious, who's at the bottom? You have a very, 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 very well-known and loved player. Fusions is the one at the very bottom, which is very interesting. Punk, Myeonbong, Color Hex, Fusions. And like I said, there's so much you can take away from this. But, Jerry also was with the Boston Uprising last season, so he's down here. Shockwave is a pretty good player. He's here on the Fusion. So it's interesting to look at and see what some of these players are. But the bottom 5 are all players from the Boston Uprising. Even though we would all agree that Myeonbong is one of the best players on that team. He's still down here pretty low just because of the way that their statistics judge things. Here's Glister down here. Glister's incredible. You kind of wouldn't expect to see him down there. I'm curious to see where Hotba is on this list. He's one of the players I'm really interested in seeing where he ended up. They still have Toby listed as Soul, even though he's now with the Philadelphia Fusion, so they haven't updated it fully, I don't believe. They still have Soon as a member of the Boston Uprising, which of course is not true anymore. Here's Mono there at 35. Interesting. Hoppa looks like he's not even on the list, which, can't say I'm too surprised. There's a lot of players not on the list, so I don't know how it was. It probably was based on players who reached a certain amount of playtime, which you would expect Hoppa to be on that list because he played most of last season, but I may have missed him. They may have also just not included people who were at the time free agents, even though they have Toby on here and Ben Bez is on here. So I don't know. I don't know how they determined who to include and who not to include, but they had something. They had a way to determine it, and I don't even see Ben Best actually on this list anymore. Very interesting, very interesting. So it's cool. I'm really liking this. This is a really cool way to have a look at what's going on and to look at players and see where they are. There's Sabiolbi, so yeah, it may just be that they didn't include people who at the time were free agents when they compiled this list. So we'll see some changes obviously over time to this list, but it's very interesting. I really like it, and I think this is a really cool thing we have. We have more stats access. So I will probably consult these power rankings every so often, just to kind of look at them and see where they have teams and whatnot based on statistics. And I'll probably bring these up in some videos every so often. Just take a look at them and kind of show you what the IBM rankings are saying for all the teams, because these are interesting to me statistically, because I don't think statistically is the best way to do a power rankings, because especially when you have 2 different leagues now. You have the APAC region, you have the North American region. I don't know why I blanked on that. You're gonna have, if you have a 20-team power ranking, so the teams are playing different metas and they're playing different teams. There's not much crossover. It's a lot more difficult to say who's the better team between some of these regions. And you can only rely on statistics, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually true. So very interesting, very cool to have this. Like I said, I'll have a link in the description if you want to check these things out for yourself, because I think they're pretty cool. But that's all that I have for today. Just a quick little update video. I'll have another main video out tomorrow, but this is all I want to talk about for today. So thank you once again. If you enjoyed this video, want more like it in the future, consider liking and subscribing. But that is all for me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.